if we think about mindfulness in terms of awareness, then what we can open up to in that awareness is our thoughts, our feelings, our bodily sensations, our ego, our personal story. All of that, in a sense, can be observed. Now, what TA, of course, adds to that is a way of describing those personal stories, the transactions that we get engaged in relationships and in life, so that mindfulness then with TA enables us to observe the things that we can then describe using the language of TA.
So it gives us more of a language to build that observing, sort of more of a narrative for the observing self.
Yes. And I think I was thinking about this recently as a bit like a breath. So on the in breath we take in the things that we have influenced us, our backgrounds, our personal histories and traumas. So in one sense we absorb that as a part of the person that we are in the world. And in the out breath, which you might think of as more of the mindfulness process, we also let go of that as who we are. We need to be able to name and understand our personal backgrounds and traumas and how we've managed those and what then forms as a personality. And we need to, in a sense, take that on board, claim that, identify with that as who we are. So that TA gives us a language of a really sort of clear understanding of how we are in context in the world, in a sense. But the breathing out part of it, which is more the mindfulness, is we also need to realize that this is just conditioning, in a sense. So this is a program by which we run our lives, that having realized it, we then need to disidentify with it, let go of it.
Yes.
So we're free of the story.
So that it's not everything.
It's not everything.
It's our story, but it's just a story.
Absolutely. So TA, I think, helps with the both the understanding of the mechanics and dynamics of a story, how that gets reinforced in life and in relationships, and self-fulfilling prophecies that come out of a belief about ourselves. And then a practice where we observe those beliefs and thoughts and memories and pieces of history in a way that allows us to distance ourselves from them.
So how might you use this idea of that integration or the combination of transaction analysis and mindfulness with clients?
Well, a colleague of mine wrote an article called Therapy Without the Therapist a few years ago, which I don't think I really understood when I first read it. But the more I thought about it and practiced the sort of thing he was describing, the more I realized that what he was talking about was if as a therapist I'm able to understand my own patterns, my own defensiveness, my own wish to be a certain type of therapist. And like in TA, we've got a wonderful theory of drivers where, you know, if I know my own, say, wish to please or wish to make something right with someone, then if I can sit mindfully noticing my own agenda, as it were, my own, how I might inadvertently intrude in the work, then what happens is that there's a sort of absence of the therapist, someone trying to be a therapist, and an invitation to the client not to be in the role of client either, to be themselves, really. So yes, genuinely a therapy without a therapist. Anyone trying to be a therapist in the role of therapist.
Yeah, so you're using particularly the mindfulness, but also some TA concepts to really be aware of your own process, so that you're not invested in being a good therapist or whatever is the agenda.
And TA, a wonderful system for knowing what's historical for us, both influence from parents, influence from our own childhood experiences. So it's a real sort of aid to what's sometimes called self-inquiry in meditation and mindfulness. So as we inquire into ourselves and know our own material, in a sense, we become more spacious in the work and in the relationship, which is an invitation for whoever we sit with to be equally spacious rather than confined by a role.
So it's really taking care of your own process.
Yes.
Of really functioning well yourself in the relationship, and therefore modelling and inviting the other to be fully themselves in that moment with you. And would you share TA concepts or mindfulness practice with your clients?
Well, in the type of mindfulness that's influenced me in the last few years, there's two streams to it, really, and one's called the understanding, like who am I, what is mind, what's conditioning, what's unconditioned mind, and then there's the practice, so the understanding and the practice, really. So these days I might share with someone I'm working with some understanding of, well, is that really you that we're talking about, or is it the story of you? Is this a defense or a self-protective mechanism or response to trauma, or is it essentially who you are? So an example for me recently was I've worked with someone who, for a long time, because of her abuse as a teenager, thought of herself as bad, that somehow she had participated, deserved this thing, and it had really informed her life for a significant time, decades. And along comes her grandson, who's 2, and of course he's got no history. He sees what he sees, and his love for her is unconditional, and it deeply challenges her personal view of herself. So it cuts through, in a sense, the story that she's identified with. Now, so the practice for her is to, for example, sit with her grandson and enjoy that unconditional mutual love. And the understanding is that we've been able to talk about how, well, to question what's real. Is it real that you are undeserving of love, or is that based on a belief? Is that conditioning? And so, with the understanding and the practice, what's an illusion, in a sense, script as an illusion or a belief, can fall away, revealing who we are, in a sense.